Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Aradhya Bhagavan Vrajeshu Tanayas Tadhama Vrindavanam Ramya Kachidupasana Vrajavadhu Vargena Vakalpita Srimad Bhagavatam Pramanamamanam Prema Pumartho Maha Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Vatamidam Tatra Dharana Para Anarpita Charam Chirat Karunayavatirina Kalau Samarpayitum Unnatojvalarasam Swabhakti Shriyam Hari Purata Sundara Dyuti Kadamba Sandipita Sada Hridaya Kandare Spuratu Vasachi Nandana. Hare Krishna. We welcome all of our YouTube Live listeners, our listeners over Facebook Live, and our listeners over Zoom to this day 6 of Sri Gauramrita. We would like to congratulate and announce the names of the devotees who participated in the quiz session from yesterday. We'd like to congratulate Hari Prasad Prabhu, Mother Flavier, and Vrinda Gopika Mataji and Ranjani Gopika Mataji. Thank you all so much for participating in the quiz session from yesterday.
So today we continue with chapter 5 of Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita. Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya, Jaya Nityananda, Jaya Dvaita Chandra, Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda, the glories of Lord Nityananda, Balarama. This chapter has 235 verses, and therefore today we will only be discussing this particular chapter. It's devoted to describing the essential nature and the glories of Lord Nityananda. In fact, Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and his first expansion in a form of pastimes is Sri Balaram, who is none other than Nityananda.
So it is said that beyond the limitations of the material world lies the spiritual sky, which is called as the Paravyoma, which has unlimited spiritual planets. And the supreme amongst those spiritual planets is Krishna Loka. Krishna Loka, which is the abode of Krishna. It has 3 divisions. It is explained in this chapter that it has 3 divisions of Krishna Loka, which are known as Dwarka, as Mathura, and as Gokula. And in that abode of Krishna Loka, the Supreme Personality of Godhead expands himself into 4 plenary portions, who are known as Krishna, Balaram, Pradyumna, and Aniruddha. They are the original quadruple forms. They are called as the original quadruple forms.
Now in Krishna Loka, it is explained in Goloka Vrindavan, there is a special place known as Shweta Dvipa or Vrindavan. But below the Krishna Loka, in the spiritual sky, are Vaikuntha planets. Now, in each Vaikuntha planet, there is a 4-handed Narayan expanded from the quadruple manifestation, which means Shankha, Chakra, Gada, Padma, or Shankha, Gada, Chakra, Padma, or Shankha, Padma, Gada, Chakra, Chakra, Gada, Padma, Shankha. You can have four factorial combination of permutations and combinations of the quadruple expansion. They have each have their own planets. And Sri Balaram in Krishna Loka is Adi Sankarshana, original Sankarshana. Sankarshana means to attract. Sankarshana means to attract everything. Samyak Karshayate. Krishna is one who attracts because it's Krishna, Akrishna. Sankarshana attracts everyone. And from this Sankarshana expands another Sankarshana. Adi Sankarshana expands into Maha Sankarshana. And this Maha Sankarshana has his own Vaikuntha planet. Then, by the internal potency of Maha Sankarshana, this transcendental existence in the spiritual sky is maintained. And in the spiritual sky, it's all liberated souls. So, spiritual sky is also an expansion of the expansion of Sri Balaram, is also maintained by the expansion of the expansion, Mahasankarshana of Lord Balaram. And then the material energy has no no control there. Now, in these planets, there is the second quadruple manifestation is also present. And outside of the Vaikuntha planets, then is the Brahma Jyoti, the impersonal manifestation of Krishna. This is known as Brahma Loka. The other side of Brahma Loka is the spiritual Karana Samudra, which means the Karana ocean, the causal ocean. And this material energy exists on the other side of the causal ocean without touching the causal ocean. This causal ocean, in the causal ocean is Mahavishnu, who's lying down. The original Purusha expansion from who? From Sankarshana. And Mahavishnu then places his glance over the material energy. So this is, as it is, people are sometimes shocked that, well, Vishnu is an incarnation of Krishna, or Krishna is the incarnation of Vishnu. They think Krishna is the incarnation of Vishnu. But here we are saying, no, Vishnu is the incarnation of Krishna. But there is a second shock. Actually, Vishnu is the incarnation of Balaram. That's how he's come. That's how of Sankarshana. That's how the progression. Of course, ultimately, all it comes from, emanates from Krishna himself. But because Krishna comes through the potency of Vishnu, so therefore people think, oh, Krishna is coming. Krishna is coming from Vishnu. Just like Nrsimhadev, where did he come from? He came from the pillar. So do we say that the origin of Nrsimhadev is the pillar? Nrsimhadev doesn't reside in the spiritual world. He resides in the pillar because from pillar he comes. Pillar is the source of Nrsimhadev. No, that's not the source. That's the medium through which, that's just a vehicle. If someone gets out of his car, do we say that, oh, this person actually used to live in the car? That's his home. Or he's born from the car. No, he lives in a house. His source is someone else. He's born somewhere else, but he is using car as a medium from going from one place to another. That's what Nrsimhadev used, the pillar. And therefore, all the incarnations come through the medium of Vishnu. And so it seems like they are all coming from Vishnu as the source. But actually, the source of Mahavishnu is Sankarshana, which is none other than the expansion of Balaram.
And therefore, we understand in this chapter it is described that as the source of the material elements, the material energy, Remember when we were discussing Bhagavad Gita, we were discussing about this, that how material energy is known as Pradhan. And as the source of the manifestations of the material energy, it is also known as Maya. The external energy of Krishna is called as Maya. But material nature is inert, and that she has no independent power to do anything. Maya doesn't have any independent power to act on her own, to do anything. She acts under the direction given by Krishna himself. She is empowered to make the cosmic manifestation by the glance, by just the mere glance of Mahavishnu. So, therefore, the material energy is not the original cause of the material manifestation. Rather, it is the transcendental glance of Mahavishnu that comes over, which is poured over the material nature that produces the cosmic manifestation. You see, in the Brahma Samhita, Lord Brahma glorifies Angani Yasya Sakalendriya Vrittimanti, that the Lord, his senses are interchangeable. So just by a mere glance, the Lord can impregnate the material cosmic manifestation. And that is the exact point that is made here in this particular chapter of the Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita Adi Leela. Then Mahavishnu, from the Karana, ocean, from the causal ocean, from Karana Dakshai Vishnu or Mahavishnu, when Mahavishnu exhales, millions and millions of universes are manifested. And in each of those universes, Mahavishnu expands himself in the form of Garbhodakshai Vishnu. From Garbhodakshai Vishnu expands Kshirodakshai Vishnu, who is the super soul who resides in every living entity. So the person who resides in our heart, if anyone comes and asks, who is the Paramatma in our heart? What is his name? His name is Kshirodakshai Vishnu. We should be able to say that. So therefore, Garbhodakshai Vishnu also has his own Vaikuntha planet in every universe, where he lives as the super soul or the supreme controller of that particular universe. So Garbhodakshai Vishnu reclines, he lies down in the water of the Garbhodaka ocean, and from his navel sprouts the lotus stem, and on top of the lotus stem sprouts the lotus flower, on which the first living creature of the universe, Lord Brahma, is manifest. So Lord Brahma, he is the first living creature who appears from the navel of Garbhodakshai Vishnu.
Now, in the Vaikuntha planets, every universe is an ocean. What ocean of what? Ocean of milk. Every universe in the Vaikuntha is an ocean of milk. Within that ocean is an island called Shvetadvipa, where Lord Vishnu lives. Therefore, this chapter actually describes two Shvetadvipas. One in the abode of Krishna, there is a Shvetadvipa, and the other is in the ocean of milk in every universe. Then this Shvetadvipa in the abode of Krishna is identical with Vrindavan Dham, which is the place where Krishna appears himself. He displays his loving pastimes. And in the Shvetadvipa within every universe is the Shesha form of the Lord, who serves Vishnu by assuming the form of his umbrella and his slippers, his couch, his pillow is all Sheshanag. His garments, his residence, even his sacred thread is Sheshanag. His throne is Shesha, and so forth. Baladev in Krishna Loka is none other than Nityananda Prabhu. So therefore, Nityananda Prabhu is the original Sankarshana, the Adi Sankarshana, the Maha Sankarshana, and his expansion as Mahavishnu, Garbhodakshai Vishnu, Kshirodakshai Vishnu. This is the position of Sri Nityananda Prabhu. In fact, in this chapter, Sri Chaitanya, Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, he describes how he left his home, how Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami left his home for a personal pilgrimage. He went to Vrindavan and he achieved all success there. He reveals how that in the paternal home, in the father's home of Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, and birthplace is Katwa. Katwa is the place where Lord Chaitanya took sannyas, he shaved his head. And there in Katwa, in a village called Jhamatapura, there is Krishnadas Kaviraj's brother invited Sri Meenaketana Ramdas. I think we also mentioned this story a little bit earlier, but it's always wonderful to keep repeating this. This Sri Meenaketana Ramdas is a great devotee of Lord Nityananda. He came to his home, but there was a priest, Gunarnava Mishra. He did not receive him well. And Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami's brother did not recognize the glories of Lord Nityananda, took side with the priest. And so Meenaketana Ramdas, he became very, very upset, sorry, and he broke his flute, went away. This was a disaster actually for the brother of Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami because he committed an offense. And that very night, Lord Nityananda Prabhu graced Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami in a dream because he had corrected his brother and ordered Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami next day leave for Vrindavan.
Right. So the text
Krishnadas
for
Kaviraj Goswami was 62 years old, and in that state, he immediately followed the orders of Lord Nityananda and how he was empowered to create this Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, to compile this, that devotees, even after 500 years, are continuing to relish as the main source. And then this will continue at least for the next 10,000 years.
So text 4 says of this particular chapter, it says, Sarva Avatari Krishna Swayam Bhagavan Taharo Dvitiya Deho Shri Balaram.
The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, is the fountainhead of all the incarnations, and Lord Balaram is his body.
Then from text
Second body.
From text 183 to text 193 of this chapter, the part where Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, he is describing that how, he actually took the side, he actually took the side of Lord Nityananda's associate, Meenakethan Ramdas, and he chastised his own brother. And because of this act, Lord Nityananda was so pleased that he appeared to Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami in a dream. And text 183 to 193, in these 11 verses, Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami is very beautifully, extremely, beautifully describing the beauty and the appearance of Lord Nityananda. Text 183 says, Arise, get up. He told me again and again. Upon rising, I was greatly astonished to see the Lord's beauty. So, in the dream, Lord Nityananda was telling Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, get up and see me. I have come to give you my darshan. And then text 184, so beautifully, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami is describing the beauty of Lord Nityananda Prabhu.
Shyamachikara Kanti Prakanda Sharira Sakshat Gandarpa Jaiche Mahamallavira. He had a glossy, blackish complexion. His tall, strong, heroic stature made him seem like Cupid himself.
So, Lord Nityananda, his complexion, here a question may be asked that Lord Nityananda is actually described to be like copper. That is another complexion that is described, that, Lord Nityananda's complexion was like reddish gold, like copper, because his eyes and everything was always intoxicated in pure love of Krishna. And his body also was always manifesting such great ecstasy for the Lord that he actually, appeared like copper. And in fact, if we notice very carefully, the Panchatattva in Sri Mayapur Dham, that Sri Gauranga Mahaprabhu, if you see them, it can't be seen so well on photograph, but when you have the opportunity to see them personally, you can see them very distinctly, that Lord Chaitanya, he actually has a golden luster. He looks like molten gold. And Lord Nityananda, he has more of reddish copper in him. He has a reddish hue in his complexion. And that is because Jananivas Prabhu, when the deities were being carved at Kumbakonam, these descriptions were given from the scriptures to accurately form the bodily complexion of each of the personalities. So therefore, but here, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami is explaining that he had a glossy, blackish complexion. It should not come as a surprise to us, because Sri Nityananda Ram, he is always in the mood of his beloved Sri Krishna. He's always thinking of Sri Gauranga Mahaprabhu. And when Lord Nityananda, when he is thinking too much about Krishna, he also develops that same Angakanti as Sri Krishna. So this should not come as a contradiction or as a surprise to us, that why is Lord Nityananda's bodily complexion described here to be as blackish? It is because of it is because of Lord Nityananda's constant remembrance of Krishna. Because here in this particular dream, Lord Nityananda specifically came to Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, and he gave him the instructions to go to Sri Vrajadham, to Vrindavan. So Nityananda Prabhu was infused with Krishna Prema, with thoughts about Krishna, and therefore his complexion matched that of his beloved Lord Sri Krishna. That is the understanding that we get from our acharyas. Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami goes on to explain the beauty of Lord Nityananda. He says that he had beautifully formed hands, arms and legs, and eyes like lotus flowers. He wore a silk cloth with a silk turban on his head. He wore golden earrings on his ears and golden armlets and bangles. He wore tinkling anklets on his lotus feet and a garland of flowers around his neck. His body was anointed with sandalwood pulp, and he was very beautifully decorated with tilak. His movements surpassed those of a maddened elephant. His face was more beautiful than millions and millions of moons put together, and his teeth were like pomegranate seeds, because he was chewing betel leaf. So imagine, pearl of pomegranate seeds. How sweet Nityananda Prabhu would be looking. The transcendental body of Lord Nityananda Ram moved to and fro, right and left, for he was absorbed in deep ecstasy. He chanted Krishna, Krishna, in a very deep voice.
And then he had a red stick. That red stick was moving in his hand. He seemed like a maddened lion. All around his four sides of his lotus feet were bumblebees. Nitai pada kamala koti chandra sushitala jechaya jagat jurai. That the lotus feet of Lord Nityananda is like millions and millions of moons. Just like here, it's explained his face in text 188. Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami is saying his face was more beautiful than millions upon millions of moons. And in this song, it's explained his lotus feet is like millions of moons. It gives shelter, Jai Chaya, under the shelter of whom Jagat Jurai, the entire universe, is being cooled by the cooling rays of those million moons. His devotees, Nityananda Prabhu, was not alone. He was with all of his associates and his devotees. These devotees, they were like cowherd boys. They were dressed like that. And they were all surrounding his lotus feet like so many bees, chanting Krishna, 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 like the bumblebees. It almost seemed as if when devotees get up in the morning and after Mangalarti, they sit in the temple hall and start chanting. So many hundreds of devotees chant. It seems like it's like bumblebees, the humming of the bumblebees. Some of them, they played horns and hornets and flutes, and others, they danced, they sang. And then some of them, they offered betel nuts to Sri Nityananda Prabhu. They waved the chamara. Some of the others, they were actually waving chamara. This was the vision of Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami. He saw Nityananda Prabhu, but also he saw his devotees. So Nityananda Prabhu is also Bhakta Pariveshtita. And therefore he's saying, thus I saw the opulence of Lord Nityananda Swarupa. His wonderful form, qualities, and pastimes, they are so transcendental.
And it was at this time that Lord Nityananda then instructed Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, go to Vrindavan and write Chaitanya Charitamrita.
Nityananda Prabhu Raguna Mahima Par Sahasravadane Shesha Nahi Payaja.
The glories of Lord Nityananda's transcendental attributes are unfathomable. Even Lord Shesha, with his thousands and thousands of mouths, cannot find their limit. This is the conclusion of this particular chapter. Therefore, we see that Lord Nityananda, who is Bhakta Rupa Swarupakam, he is the expansion of the devotee. When Krishna appeared as Sri Gauranga Mahaprabhu, his brother Balaram descends as Lord Nityananda. Lord Balaram is the first expansion of Krishna, and all subsequent divine expansions come from him, and their main function is to create and maintain the material universes.
Balaram, he lovingly serves Krishna in Vrindavan. Similarly, Nityananda Prabhu, his identity is also of Sevak Bhagavan, the servitor personality of Godhead, Sevak Bhagavan. And he's not different to Lord Chaitanya, except that he comes in the mood of service.
Just like Krishna and Balaram, there is no difference between Krishna and Balaram. There's only two differences between Krishna and Balaram. Krishna is black in complexion, and Lord Balaram is white in complexion. And the second difference is that Lord Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead in the mood of the enjoyer. And Lord Balaram is the Supreme Personality of Godhead in the mood of a servant. So therefore, the same two differences is also carried for Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda. Lord Chaitanya is molten gold in his complexion. Lord Nityananda is reddish gold in his complexion. Lord Chaitanya, he is the Supreme Personality of Godhead in the mood of ultimate separation from Krishna, experiencing the ultimate mood of Vipralamba Rasa, the mood of separation from Srimati Radharani. He's experiencing that. And Lord Balaram, as Lord Nityananda, he is the Sevak Bhagavan. He is the primeval servitor of Sri Gauranga Mahaprabhu.
Sometimes Nityananda Prabhu serves Lord Chaitanya as a servant. Sometimes he serves as a guru. Even guru is a service. And sometimes he serves as a friend, sometimes as a servant. So Nityananda Prabhu serves Lord Chaitanya in all possible ways. And therefore, if we want to gain the favor of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who should we serve? Lord Nityananda.
Ki Jai. So this particular chapter, although it glorifies Lord Nityananda, now remember it doesn't have much details about the life of Lord Nityananda before he met Lord Chaitanya. So therefore now we will also parallelly try to study a few more scriptures which has some more details about the glorious life of Lord Nityananda. So from Sri Chaitanya Bhagavata, which was written by Srila Vrindavan Das Thakur, let us try to see some of the glories of Lord Nityananda himself. So it is said that Sri Nityananda Ram, he appeared in the village of Ekachakra, which is in the Radhadesh district of West Bengal. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Nityananda, made his appearance there. This is described in chapter 2 of the Chaitanya Bhagavatam. Lord Nityananda is factually the supreme father of all living entities. Srila Vrindavan Das Thakur explains, but to show his special mercy upon his two beloved devotees, who are Brahmanas in Ekachakra, Nityananda Prabhu appeared and chose them to be his parents. So the father of Nityananda Prabhu is Hadai Pandit or Hadai Ojha, and his mother is Padmavati Devi.
In fact, it is said Lord Nityananda is an ocean of mercy and the shelter of all the Vaishnava devotees. He appeared, of course, in Radhadesh, and when he appeared, all of the demigods, they were making joyous sounds, they were showering flowers, and all this was performed in front of people's eyes, but they could not see it. It was not visible to them. That's when, from Nityananda Prabhu's appearance day, that's when Radhadesh district grew more and more and more prosperous.
So, Lord Nityananda, he appeared in Ekachakra. And although he is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, when he appeared in Ekachakra, everybody in Ekachakra, all the residents of Ekachakra, they actually became so delighted. They would actually consider they had developed such strong attachment and affiliation to Lord Nityananda. Little Nitai, they would call him Nitai affectionately. And Nitai was like the darling of Ekachakra. So it is said that some very beautiful pastimes of Lord Nityananda, even in Chaitanya Bhagavat, Srila Vrindavan Das Thakur does not describe some intimate childhood pastimes of Lord Nityananda. So therefore, from another book, we have taken some sweet pastimes of Lord Nityananda, which we will share with all of you. It is said that Sri Gauranga Mahaprabhu cannot be approached, nor can he be understood without taking shelter of Lord Nityananda, who is the original Guru, who is the Adi Guru, who is the original spiritual master of the entire universe. Lord Nityananda serves as the intermediary between Lord Chaitanya and his devotees. If we seek shelter of Lord Nityananda, we will be able to understand the mood of Gauranga Mahaprabhu. It is like Nityananda Prabhu holds the key that unlocks the mood of Lord Chaitanya. So therefore, it is said that he is the second body of the Supreme Lord who is manifested just like, Balaram is to Krishna, Lakshmana is to Lord Ramachandra, and Nityananda is the same way to Gauranga Mahaprabhu. Lord Nityananda Prabhu has such beautiful and charming features in every respect. In his childhood, he knew no other pleasure but acting out the different pastimes of the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
And how he would enact those, he would gather his friends together. And then throughout the day, they would simply put on different dramas, enacting the different pastimes of the Lord. In fact, sometimes one of his friends would pretend to be Mother Earth, Bhumi, in the form of cow. Another friend would pretend to be Lord Brahma. And then he would plead with with Lord Brahma, please, the demons in the form of kings, they are causing me great difficulties. And then they would approach the ocean. It was just Mother Ganges which was passing by. And they would approach. This is the ocean of milk, Kshirodak, and all of them would act as demigods. And another friend would take the form of Lord Vishnu, and he would say, all of you demigods, you all take birth in the Yadu dynasty, and I'll appear as Krishna. This is how they would enact all these wonderful different pastimes of the Lord. Sometimes his friends, they would pretend to be Devaki and Vasudev and give birth to Krishna.
And the way that, Lord Nityananda would enact the appearance of Krishna in Mathura was that he would enter into a room. He would close all the doors and the windows and everything. He would make it very, very dark, and it would appear as midnight. And at that time, Lord Nityananda, he would have the entire village of Ekachakra who would be so wonderful to, even come to witness the drama that Nityananda Prabhu was putting up. And they would all come and see that first Lord Vishnu appeared, and then baby Krishna came. They would put up a little doll dressed up as Krishna, and then that doll would be carried by Vasudev, and someone would come as Anantashesh, as the umbrella, and the entire pastime with all intricate details would be enacted by Lord Nityananda.
And then sometimes his friend would play Putana, another would jump on him, suck his breast, try to kill him. Sometimes they would play Aghasura, Dhenukasura, so many different wonderful pastimes. And then everyone in Ekachakra was just stuck in wonder. How is this happening? How do these little children know all these esoteric pastimes? They've never heard them. They've never studied them. They're just little children. But Lord Nityananda was so very fond of organizing these beautiful dramas because he is none other than Balaram. He knows everything, all of the pastimes that are recorded, even some intimate ones which are not recorded. Sometimes they would go and take the cows all day long, and they would just herd the cows and they would dance with their sticks. They would play flutes, pretend to be Krishna and Balaram. Then they would come home, they would break into different people's house and steal butter and steal the yogurt. People were stuck with wonder, what are these little boys up to? But nobody minded it. Everyone was so full of affection. They were simply wanted to hold Lord Nityananda in their hands because his body was soft like butter. They just wanted to embrace him and love him and show their affection ultimately to him.
One time, Lord Nityananda, he said, today we are going to act out that part of the scene where Lakshmana and Lord Ramachandra, they were in the battle with with Ravana, and then Lakshmana got hit by the Shakti weapon, and then I'll be Lakshmana, Nitai said, I'll be Lakshmana, and all of you, and you, when I get struck by the weapon, I will fall down. I will be unconscious. Then the devotee who is playing Hanuman, at that time, that Hanuman will have to go and get, Sanjeevani from the Himalayas. And then you come and put it on my nose, and then I will come back to external consciousness. They said, yes, 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 Nitai, done, done. So then, suddenly, when that scene was getting enacted, then Nitai, as soon as the Shakti weapon hit Nityananda, Nityananda just shouted, he screamed out loudly, oh, and he just fell unconscious. And, and the children, they thought that Nityananda Prabhu has actually gotten hurt. They forgot their role. And they're like, oh, Nitai, what happened to you? The entire village, they got worried. What happened to Nitai? What happened to Nitai? Why is he not even breathing? Harai Oja, his father, Padmavati Devi, Nityananda's mother, they all got so worried. What happened to my child? Why did he fall dead suddenly? What happened? What happened? They were in so much anxiety. There was one elderly person from the village. He said, don't worry, don't worry. Just enact the next scene. Enact the next scene. What is the next scene? Then he said, oh, the boys remembered. Oh, yes, I am Hanuman. I have to go and bring Sanjeevani. So then this Hanuman, he went, Jai Shri Ram, and he went to Sanjeevani. He brought back Sanjeevani. As soon as he put that Sanjeevani on Nityananda Prabhu's nose, Nitai just came back to consciousness.
It was not even the actual Sanjeevani. It was just some plant from somewhere. And everyone said, what happened, Nitai? What happened? Why you were lifeless? He said, no, I was waiting for the next scene. Why did you, I was waiting. Your next thing was, I told you I'll get up only when you put this Sanjeevani on me. So until then, I would not get up.
So, like this, Nityananda Prabhu, with such beautiful childhood pastimes, he would, drown the inhabitants of Ekachakra in pools of ecstasy. So, like this, Nityananda Prabhu would, enact these beautiful, beautiful pastimes. Sometimes unseen by anyone, they would go into different people's homes and steal butter, like Prabhu was explaining. And, they would just be so much loved. People of Ekachakra, they just loved Nityananda Prabhu more than they loved their own children. They never complained, neither did they chastise Nitai or any of the other children. Sometimes, one time actually, Nityananda Prabhu, he enacted the pastime of Krishna lifting Govardhan Hill. And then he started, he said, Anior, 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 bring me more. And he started eating all the offerings that the Ekachakra were bringing. And they had a beautiful celebration of Govardhan Puja. So sometimes, so like this, every different day, they would have different pastimes that, they would enact.
Then sometimes they would enact the Dhenukasura pastime. They would go and vigorously shake the tal trees. And then considering it as Taluvan, it would all fall and they would enact Balaram killing Dhenukasura, the demon, the donkey ass demon. One day, from the branches of a bakula tree, he made many hooded snakes. And then he took his friends to Padmavati Kunda and placed the leaves in the water. And he began to elegantly dance upon the leaves in the water. He was like floating on the water just with leaves as his base. Everyone was amazed. So they also said, we'll also enter. They also entered the water, but they became unconscious. Then Nitai revived them as Krishna had revived his cowherd boyfriends after subduing Kaliya. So Balaram, Nityananda Prabhu was actually tiptoeing on the leaves as if they were the hoods of Kaliya.
The parents and all the people in Ekachakra, they would be amazed that how would Nitai know such intricate details, such beautiful, beautiful pastimes. They would just think Nitai must be a very special personality. He must be specially empowered by the Lord. But in their excitement and their affection for Nitai, they would forget to consider that Nitai could be the Supreme Personality of Godhead. They would just not even consider him to be the Supreme Personality of Godhead whatsoever. Their love for Nityananda Prabhu was so much more greater.
Lord Nityananda, he lived at the home in Ekachakra for 12 years. Different pastimes till 1486. 1486 was the year when Sri Gauranga Mahaprabhu appeared in Sridham Mayapur. Nityananda Prabhu had appeared 12 years before in 1474. Then he arranged to leave his home, and for the next 20 years, Nitai, he traveled to all the holy tirthas of India. Then he arrived at Sri Vrindavan Dham. Then 20 years later, for 20 years, Lord Nityananda did not preach. He traveled all over India, but he did not preach. He could have preached Harinam Sankirtan everywhere, but he wanted Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to first inaugurate it, and then he would assist. Till then, he did not say any word or preach anything to anyone. Just he would continue his own bhajan. In 1506, then when Lord Chaitanya started his Harinam Sankirtan pastime in Sridham Mayapur, then Nityananda Prabhu left Vrindavan, came to Sri Navadvip Dham. Later on, it will be explained in detail how that wonderful meeting happened.
So thus we see that although Nityananda Prabhu is Adi Guru, he is the original spiritual master. He could have, talked to everybody about the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. But Lord Nityananda Prabhu waited because that is the etiquette. That he wanted to give the credit to Lord Gauranga Mahaprabhu to inaugurate the chanting of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. The Yuga Dharma was to be established by none other than Sri Gauranga Mahaprabhu himself. And therefore, Lord Nityananda Prabhu waited very patiently till the time that Lord Chaitanya himself inaugurated the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, the Harinam Sankirtan Yagya, and then Lord Nityananda Prabhu joined Sri Gauranga Mahaprabhu.
So therefore, one who takes shelter of Lord Nityananda's lotus feet, they will get the soothing moonlight, Koti Chandra Sushita. And therefore, if really one wants to enter into the dancing party of Sri Sri Radha and Krishna, he must firmly catch hold of the lotus feet of Nitai. Jai Nitai. When we go to Ekachakra, when you visit, they greet everyone with Jai Nitai, Jai Nitai. Just like in Vrindavan, they say Jai Shri Radhe, Radhe Radhe. Here, everyone says Jai Nitai.
So today we end our session here with the glories of Lord Nityananda. And tomorrow we will continue the next chapter, which is the glories of Sriman Advaita Acharya Prabhu. And then further explaining about the Panchatattva and Sri Gadadhar Prabhu and Sri Vas Thakur. So, in honor of Lord Nityananda inaugurating and assisting Sri Gauranga Mahaprabhu in the Sankirtan Leela of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, we will sing the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. We will dedicate it as prayers, heartfelt prayers for all the devotees' well-being.
Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Krishnaya Putale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Nityanandine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavani Paschatya Deshatari Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare
Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare
Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Nityananda Ram, Nityananda Ram, Nityananda Ram, Jaya Nityananda Ram. Jaya Prabhupada Jaya, Prabhupada Jaya, Prabhupada Srila Prabhupada.
Nityananda Ram ki,
Jai.
Gauranga Mahaprabhu ki,
Jai.
Srila Prabhupada ki.
Jai. Jai. So before we open the lines, we will just read out the quiz questions for today.
First, what are the three divisions of Krishna Loka? Second, is Lord Krishna an incarnation of Lord Vishnu?
Third, what is the cause of the cosmic manifestation? Fourth, how many Shvetadvipas are there and where are they present?
Fifth, what is the actual complexion of Lord Nityananda? Why was his complexion blackish when he appeared in the dream of Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami?
Sixth, what is the identity of Lord Nityananda? How is his identity similar to and yet different from Lord Chaitanya?
Seventh, who are the parents of Lord Nityananda? Where did he appear? Eighth, what pastimes would Lord Nityananda enact with his childhood friends? What happened when they were enacting Ram Leela?
Ninth, specify the year in which Lord Nityananda and Lord Chaitanya appeared. Why didn't Lord Nityananda inaugurate the preaching movement even though he appeared before Lord Chaitanya? Fantastic questions, dearest Divyangi and Prabhuji. Thank you very, very much. So now let's open up the lines. Tulasi, you have your hand raised first. So Tulasi.
Mataji, so I have a question that Nityananda Prabhu has golden color and white color.
Complexion?
Yes.
Yes, golden color. Lord Nityananda is golden, but he has little reddish in his golden color.
And Mataji, I made this. This is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. This is Nityananda Mahaprabhu, and this is me. And I'm crying for Chaitanya Nityananda Prabhu.
Oh, that's so sweet, beta. So sweet. Thank you. Can you take a picture and you can send us?
Okay.
Thank you, beta. Thank you for your darshan today, Tulasi. Thank you. Hari bol, bacha. Thank you.
Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hari bol, beta. Thank you. Garima?
Hare Krishna Mataji, Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam, all glories to Shri Prabhupada and Gurudev. I love this class because of the pastimes. Really, I have never heard these pastimes before. It was amazing when I heard it. It's like I was amazed to see that like Balaram has the bumblebees around his lotus feet, and how like millions of moons. He's bright, it's brighter. Nityananda's brighter than that, and like he is like copper color, and he has little reddish and gold in the Mayapur temple. I just enjoyed listening about Nitai today. I have a question. That Nriga story, right? He had those cows, so the cows the cows went to another brahmana, right?
Yes.
So why he got punished by Yamnudas? Because the king didn't not know that he made a mistake. So why did he get a punishment?
That's very true, beta. Why did he get a punishment for something that he had not even done?
That is, Srila Prabhupada says, this is the risk in performing karma kanda rituals. You know, when we perform rituals for any material benefit, this is the risk that if we do little bit mistake, something good can immediately turn into something bad. Even if we don't, even if it's not our mistake. But with devotional service, it's different. If we make some mistake, we beg forgiveness. Krishna will forgive because it's a loving reciprocation, devotional service. But karma kanda rituals, they are business dealings, that you do this, these, all these things you do for a particular demigod, and then they will give you that result. But if you make one mistake, boom, that's it. Your contract is terminated, and you get punishment for not following that contract. So therefore, that's the risk. Sometimes we go after material desires and we do these different rituals. We have to be very careful in them. Otherwise, we get reactions. And even if it's not our mistake, but in devotional service with Krishna, if we make a mistake, Krishna says, Kshipram bhavati dharmatma. If we realize it, we accept it, we beg forgiveness, and we vow not to do it again and reinstate ourselves and perform devotional service again, then Krishna forgives and we can make advancement again. So this Nriga, King Nriga's pastime, Prabhupada says this is the difference between performing rituals for material desires versus performing devotional service. That's why we should always try to perform devotional service, and even if we are doing rituals, we should always put Krishna in the center somehow or the other to make it bhakti.
Yeah, I understand a lot. Thank you, Mataji and Prabhuji. Hare
Thank you,
Krishna.
Beta. Hare Krishna. Kirti?
Hare Krishna Mataji Prabhuji, Nandavat Pranam,
Beta.
Krishna Prabhupada, Guru and Gauranga. I really like today's class a lot. I like all the pastimes and everything. And like one of my favorite pastime was like how in Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami's dream, Nityananda Prabhu came a little black. I really like that pastime. I've never heard the pastime before. And it's a good learning for me, and I like the pastime so much now. I have one question, Mataji and Prabhuji. So in the Treta Yuga, we had Lord Ram and Lord Lakshman, and in the Dwapar Yuga, it was Krishna and Balaram. And why in the Kali Yuga, Lord Chaitanya and Nityananda Prabhu are not brothers? Because I don't think Nityananda Prabhu is born. I don't think Nityananda Prabhu's mom is Sachi Devi. So
Right.
why is Nityananda Prabhu not Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's brother when he's been his brother like forever?
Very true. You see, even in Dwapar Yuga, they had different mothers, right? Like Rohini Devi was the mother of Lord Balaram, and Krishna's mother is Mother Jashoda and Devaki Mata. So in that sense, also they have different mothers. And but here in Gauranga Leela, we see that Lord Nityananda appeared from a different place altogether. He was in a different place altogether. And Srila Vrindavan Das Thakur, in the second chapter of the Chaitanya Bhagavat, he gives the description and he answers this question: why? Why did Lord Nityananda appear? Or not just Lord Nityananda, many other devotees, why did they appear in such far off places when everyone knew that Lord Chaitanya is coming in Navadvip? Why did they all not appear in Navadvip? Why did Lord Nityananda choose, Harai Ojha and Padmavati Devi? Why did they choose Radhadesh? Why did Lord Nityananda choose Radhadesh? Chaitanya Bhagavat, Vrindavan Das Thakur says that, you see, the devotees of Lord Chaitanya, they are much more merciful than the Lord himself. And because those places, because they are far away from the mercy of Lord Chaitanya, so therefore when these devotees, these great personalities, they appeared in such places, they made those places glorious also. And they gave the mercy, their mercy, to those personalities residing in those places. So thus they delivered those people residing in far off places who were not able to get the mercy of Lord Chaitanya directly. They got it through the devotees of Lord Chaitanya. That is one reason. Second reason is that although Lord Nityananda is not, directly appearing from Mother Shachi, but Lord Nityananda, when he came and started staying in Navadvip, at that time, at that time it is said that Mother Shachi actually started loving Lord Nityananda and having such loving reciprocations with Lord Nityananda that she considered him to be her own son.
Lord Nityananda was Lord Chaitanya's brother from another mother. And at the same time, the purpose also was different. When Krishna and Balaram came, what was their purpose? Their purpose was to enact wonderful pastimes and give a glimpse of the spiritual world to everyone. But when they came as Lord Chaitanya, Lord Nityananda, what was their purpose? Their purpose was not just to enact pastimes, but also, more importantly, to deliver all the people of this entire universe. So, therefore, in Krishna Lila, Krishna told all the demigods that you take birth in Vraja, in different places in Vrindavan Dham itself, because we'll all come together, perform pastime. But in Chaitanya Lila, he said, Nityananda, you take birth, you appear 7 hours away from my place. He told Vishakha and Lalita, you appear in South India, which is Ramananda Rai and Swarup Damodar. He told Gopal Bhatta Goswami, who is another Manjari, that you take birth in South India there. I will come there and then we'll deliver the entire South India at that time. Some other devotees, he said, you take birth near Vrindavan. Some said in Bengal, some in East Bengal, so that Lord Chaitanya can go to these places, meet them, and they would have already made the ground to make people more and more Krishna consciousness, and this mercy can be spread far and wide and like that. Because the purpose was different, so they came at different places.
Hope this answers your question, Beta.
That really answers my question, and I always just wondered this question so much. So thank you so much, Mataji Prabhuji, for answering that.
Beta.
Thank you, Mataji Prabhuji, for amazing session. Thank you, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you. Any other questions or comments?
Not, we can end here. Jai Nitai Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Eva Cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha.
Ananta Koti Vaishnav Vrinda ki Jai. Srila Prabhupada ki Jai.
Hare Krishna.